Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for November 28, 2022, the Back to Venezuela edition. We begin with that story from the Wall Street Journal as Chevron has gotten new licenses to pump oil in Venezuela. The license comes after the Venezuelan government and opposition coalition agreed to implement a humanitarian relief program. What does that mean for the service companies that do work in Venezuela? Well, you better be very, very careful, because you have to make sure that the people who are paying you are not on the sanctions list. Next up, from the FT, believes that Gillian Tett, columnist at the FT, says blockchain still has a green future regardless of crypto. This month may not be the perfect moment for the institution to show the benefits of blockchain, but Gillian Tett believes that the crypto fraud as unleashed by FTX is not going to negatively impact, nor it should negatively impact, the use of blockchain for business. Next up, from Reuters, Amazon hopes to settle with the EU antitrust regulators by year end to address concerns over its use of its sellers' data. Settling with the EU means the company may avoid a much larger fine, and faced with the charges of using its size, power, and data to push its own products over merchant rivals on its platform. So it would be a big deal if Amazon settles with the EU, and it would be a first step towards Amazon moving back into the good graces. And our final story comes from Bloomberg, which reports that ZTE and Huawei have been banned from selling electronics in the U.S. by regulators who say they pose a security risk, continuing a years-long effort to limit the reach of these two huge Chinese telecom companies. The FCC, in an order released last week, said that the connected camera providers Huawei and Huawei, as well as the two-way radio maker Hytera, are coming under this order. Obviously, the Biden administration is continuing the sanctions that started under the Trump administration, I think correctly viewing these companies as a true antithesis to U.S. national security interest, both in terms of the amount of technology they are purloining from the United States, but embedding Chinese technology into U.S. products. I would expect only to see more of this going forward. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.